Hey, what's up everyone? I'm your host, Jonathan Thames of Rosie and Ernie Productions, and welcome back to Multimedia Megafan Movie Reviews. On today's video, we're continuing to part 5 of our DCEU reviews and discussing the highly anticipated but very disappointing release of 2017's Justice League, which Warner Brothers is still insisting is canon to the DCEU for some reason. Following the massive win for DC earlier in 2017 with Wonder Woman, DC fans were giddy with excitement at the pending release of what was probably the most highly anticipated DC movie of all time among fans. But things along the way caused a lot of us to become quickly concerned following the announcement of director Zack Snyder's departure from the project due to family tragedy, and Warner Brothers' decision to have director Joss Whedon step in to complete the project, initially stating he was there to finish things up in post. However, a short time later it was disclosed that WB ordered a barrage of expensive reshoots with several actors, including Henry Cavill, who was set to film for his role in Mission Impossible Fallout around the same time, and had grown a mustache for the part that he was contractually obligated not to shave during these JL reshoots. And that mustache would be covered up with CGI. Well, we all saw how that turned out. I mean, look at that.
Look how they massacred my boy.
By the time the movie hit theaters, I think the majority of DC fans, including myself, walked in not knowing exactly what to expect, but hopeful that the movie we'd been hoping for would still somehow manage to be awesome. And was it? No. No, it was not. Now, admittedly, I didn't walk out of the theaters hating it, but I think I was kind of in shock initially, really trying to process what it was that I just watched and how I felt within context of the previous installments. And like many, I'd been a DC fan my whole life and dreamed of the day we'd finally get to see an incarnation of the Justice League on the big screen. So, whereas I absolutely didn't hate it, it was incredibly disappointing not to absolutely love it. And that sentiment seems to be shared by the majority of fans, as the movie was panned hard by fans as well as critics. One thing was definitely obvious to us, and that was that this was not a Zack Snyder movie. It was a Joss Whedon movie with some of Zack's cinematography. It was totally out of place in tone within the context of the rest of the universe it was meant to be a part of. After having seen the real Justice League earlier this year, I think I get what Whedon's task via the studio must have been. Bring in color, bring in jokes, trim it down to a 2-hour movie, and do it like the Avengers. But having said that, it was still an inexcusable butchering of a filmmaker's work, and by now, pretty much everyone is fully aware of the situation regarding Whedon and his alleged treatment of cast members during the reshoots, so yeah, add that to it, and I just don't have any defense for what fans were given. I would normally spend some time talking about some of the positive things that I actually liked about this movie, but literally every single scene, line, joke, camera shot, or plot point I enjoyed came from Zack's original vision, except they are way better executed within the context of his cut. The rest of it, all of the Whedon scenes, lines, jokes, and shots, are simply okay at the very best, though some of the jokes are just extremely cliche, unnecessarily sexual, and or just flat out dumb.
Said that you were the thirstiest young woman he ever met. Hungriest.
Yeah. But it all feels out of place in tone and color. It is not pleasant to look at, in my opinion. All of the suits look oversaturated and too brightly colored, and then there's that god-awful red background during the final acts. The base story is alright in concept, but it's extremely sloppy in execution in this cut of the movie. This version of the film starts off a short time after Superman's death, when Batman lures a parademon in Gotham by using a captured rooftop burglar as bait, explaining that the parademons smell fear. Wait a minute, what? When did the parademons in the comics ever smell fear? Isn't fear Batman's thing? And the Scarecrow's? Whatever, moving on. Batman defeats the parademon as they tangle in midair due to the parademon being weakened from an annoying alarm sound. Wait, are we doing Mars attacks now? Okay, sorry, moving on. So, the parademon explodes, for some reason, and his disintegrated body leaves a marking on the wall that symbolizes 3 boxes, later revealed to be called mother boxes. Matching other sightings and sketches from Luthor's notes, this marking signals to Bruce that there is a pending invasion, and it's time to round up the other superheroes. The invasion is led by an alien named Steppenwolf, who has been unexplainably exiled from his world and is called to Earth by the Mother Boxes when they become awakened. And he seeks to collect all 3 Mother Boxes to form the Unity, which will turn Earth into Steppenwolf's birth world. As the heroes learn that Victor Stone, aka Cyborg, played by Ray Fisher, is the product of and possesses one of the Mother Boxes, also described as a change engine, they determine that they can use the box's power to bring Superman back to life to help them defeat Steppenwolf and stop the Unity. But none of it's very well explained, and way too much happens way too fast for the story to unfold in a way that seems coherent. The pacing is super rushed, and most scenes left little to no lasting impact because there was absolutely no time for the characters in the scenes to establish relatable motivations for doing what they were doing. It was obvious that scenes and key plot points were stripped and oversimplified to the point to where they were basically rendered mildly effective at best. The action is so-so, but the bad coloring poorly affected some of the CG effects and made the movie feel way more cheesy and cartoony. Whereas the action styles from the previous movies were a lot more finessed and artful. And the final battle is extremely underwhelming and disappointing, moving way too quickly to absorb what should be an epic battle, and again suffering from a more cartoony look and feel. A big contributor to this is some extremely cheesy Superman dialogue, which I get was meant to make him feel more like the classic Superman, but it honestly just didn't work for me at all in the context of this movie or universe. And that isn't to say that I don't like the classic take on Superman. I'm a big fan of the original serials and TV series, the classic Fleischer cartoons, the 70s cartoons, the 90s cartoons, and the Christopher Reeve films. But again, this just felt way out of place within the context of the universe that was set up for this movie. Steppenwolf is also not extremely impressive or intimidating as a villain in this version, and doesn't feel like a remotely formidable opponent for the entire Justice League. His dialogue is weak and extremely cheesy, and there's no well-explained motivation or weight behind the threat that he poses, which in turn comes across as minimal when pitted against the movie's heroes. As I said before, I didn't walk out of theaters absolutely hating it, but I was extremely bothered that I didn't absolutely love it. I tried not to set my expectations too high going in, but I was expecting at least one element of the movie to really wow me. At least just 1 second that made it feel like a genuinely rewarding experience. The closest thing I got to being wowed was right after the League first brings back Superman and they have to engage with him. There's a moment shared between the Flash and Superman as the Flash attempts to zip by Superman unnoticed. I thought that was really great. But not surprisingly, that was one of Zack's original scenes, and made it into his far superior cut of the movie. So, aside from that scene alone, the film altogether felt very lackluster. So my question to Warner Brothers is, why continue to push this terrible movie as canon over Zack Snyder's Justice League? How do you expect to maintain a fan base of these characters when you treat neither the characters nor the fans like you have any respect for them or have a care in the world for their opinions? I mean, the vast majority of audiences say #Restore the Snyderverse with, again, overwhelming support from fans, critics, and even a good number of usual Snyder skeptics after the universally and overwhelmingly positive reception of Zack Snyder's Justice League. And how do you choose to respond? By slapping them in the face with an expensive 4K advertisement for the nearly 4-year-old Whedon hack job cut of the film that was universally panned by fans and critics, and refusing to acknowledge the superior version of the film as canon for the DCEU. Yeah, sounds like a great way to maintain your customer base. Instead of giving my customers what they clearly communicate to me that they want, I'll just taunt them with a bullshit ad that forces some completely subpar product down their throats and expect them to keep buying it. I'm sure I'll make a killing with that ego. My advice is as follows. 1. Restore the Snyderverse. Get your head out of your butts and realize that restoring the Snyderverse is in any capacity an extremely profitable move at this point based on all of the interest generated by the Snyder Cut. There is a huge demand, so create supply to meet the demand. Simple Business 101. Number 2, stop canceling and rebooting. See your story arcs through. Commit to the plan and don't rashly cancel and reboot a continuity because of a misstep. If Marvel had folded the first moment they hit a snag in terms of comparative reception, they wouldn't have even made it to Phase 2. But they saw the continuity through, and did it pay off? Absolutely! But the moment that BVS encountered mixed reception at the box office, Warner Brothers very quickly decided that their plan wasn't paying off and that they needed to nix the Snyderverse, despite being only 2 films in at that point. Again, can you imagine if the MCU just stopped after The Incredible Hulk wasn't as well received as Iron Man? Develop a plan, commit to the plan, and see it through. Overall, I give this cut of the movie a rating of 5 out of 10, and I really don't recommend it to anyone, especially with the Snyder Cut now available, which again is a superbly superior film. So don't waste your time with this one unless you're just extremely curious about it and want to see how drastically it differs from the director's true vision. But if you have seen it or decide that you do want to go and check it out, come back and let me know in the comments what you thought about it. As it stands right now, the studio's actions are rendering a major disinterest within many fans about any upcoming DC projects, myself included, and that actually really sucks to say as a lifelong DC fan. But I am rapidly losing faith in their handling of these characters, their fan base, and their treatment of the filmmakers they hire to helm the projects. That being said, I will continue to film my intended series of reviews for all of the DC films up to the point of Zack Snyder's Justice League, and will determine upon the release of this year's The Suicide Squad whether or not I will continue discussing or promoting the DC films in any capacity beyond that. Hashtag Restore the Snyderverse. I'd like to thank all of you guys for watching. I hope you all enjoyed the review. I hope that everyone is doing well, and we'll see you all in the next video.